Hi, my name is Vicki Whited, and today we're going to be debating the topic of aging in place. Who should decide when it is time for an older adult to move from their home? And I will be taking the stance that responsibility should be the decision of the family and the person that is involved in moving from their home.
And I'm Christina Sharp, and I'm on the opposition side where I will argue that professionals should be able to decide when it's time for an older adult to move from their home.
There is a certainty that longevity continues to increase among nearly all populations, and most adults over the age of 75 wish to live independently as long as possible. Another certain reality is most families and communities are not well equipped to handle the growing needs of older adults during their aging process. The aging in place model allows mature adults to remain in their preferred living space by providing the services for businesses and programs that offer assistance to senior adults. A third sure reality is there comes a point in time when either seniors or their families do not have such available services or the cost becomes prohibitive. The issue before us is who should decide when it is time for an older adult to move from their home to a specialized facility to meet further needs. In some cases, this becomes the decision to move gradually but surely to the death of that beloved older adult. It is my argument that the decision for this life-changing, life-prolonging event is best made within the context of the senior personal wishes when possible, with the immediate decision-making process primarily involving the family and not left to the automatic decision of the healthcare and social welfare professionals.
I want to start off with the true story obtained by the Family Caregiving Alliance website, 2016. There's a section titled Caregiving Connect with caregiver stories attached. One story that stuck out to me was titled Burnout with Guilt by Rebecca H. from Texas. The date is unknown. Rebecca's story is as follows. My mom moved in with my family of 5 and myself 7 years ago. I have 2 siblings who do not help with mom, and they are MIA. Mom is bipolar, negative, disabled, handicapped, diabetic, has thyroid issues, is a bigger woman, and is very much needy. However, to me, she is my sweet elderly mom, and I love her, but I am tired, grumpy, and I feel underappreciated. Not only do I do all of mom's caregiving, I also have 2 sick children, a daughter with renal disease who is struggling with her own pain, fears, and doctor's appointments, and a son with autism and asthma. I am so angry that my siblings think it's okay to leave me all alone. I'm resenting my mom sometimes because I can't get a break. Whenever I try to get sis to help with our mom, there's always an excuse not to help me, and she cuts off mom's phone calls. When I try to get out, my mom is angry and treats me horribly. I'm the only one here for her 24/7, and I am treated the worst. Then she plays a guilt trip on me. I love my mom so much, but my kids and my life matter too. My back is hurt and has messed up more from lifting mom and bathing her. I can do this if I had more breaks and more time to be with my kids without being told I am a horrible person for wanting to go out. My kids are not living a normal, consistent, happy life, and they have to wait and be second to mom. It's sad either way. I am lost, sad, angry, guilty, but I love my mom and my kids. As we've heard here, Rebecca obviously has a lot of stress with the demands of being a mother to her sick children and her sick mother with no assistance from her siblings. As we know from the text this week by Ashford, elder abuse is more prevalent in situations where their caregivers are stressed and overwhelmed. Though we do not know Rebecca, there's a chance for elder abuse increases when stress excuse me, the chance for elder abuse increases with the stress, according to the National Center on Elder Abuse, or NCEA. From our text, we know that cognitive impairment increases with age, and Alzheimer's disease and other forms of dementia are common. This disease affects short-term memory, the brain's function, behavior, and emotions in the older adults. These changes are often frustrating and bring many challenges to the family members who take on the caregiving. Often, when the disease progresses, the older person experiences symptoms such as delusions, hallucinations, agitation, verbal and physical aggression, and is often uncooperative with care, as stated by Schneider et al., 2003. Many family caregivers lose hope and begin to become angry with their loved ones at this time. As Rebecca stated in her story, she felt underappreciated, and she stated to have resentment towards her mother. According to the National Center for Elder Abuse, on elders with dementia and chronic illnesses are at higher risk of abuse or neglect. Anywhere from 2 to 5 million elderly Americans suffer from abuse each year. Elders suffer from many types of abuse, including verbal, physical, emotional, financial exploitation, self-neglect, and abandonment. According to the NCEA, the rates for abuse to elders with dementia by those who are caring for them was between 34 and 62%. The most prevalent type of abuse was verbal abuse at 60%. The NCEA states 20% of family caregivers fear they will become violent with their loved ones they are caring for. In 2010, an article called Screening for Abuse and Neglect of People with Dementia by Wigglesworth, Mosqueda, and Molnard described the characteristics of caregivers that is most associated with the mistreatment of people, which includes perceived burden, emotional status, depressive symptoms, anxiety, and role limitations due to emotional problems. The resentment and negativity Rebecca feels toward her mother can transition into abuse very easily. There are also times older adults refuse to accept help and want to continue to care for themselves. Though many are able to do this successfully, others are not. When an older adult becomes unable to care for themselves, self-neglect happens. This occurs when an older adult is no longer capable of taking care of their own needs, and they start to decline in weight because they cannot cook or shop for themselves. They become unable to shower, and they start to live in an unsafe environment because they cannot clean up after themselves any longer. Unfortunately, some parent-child relationships are not as strong or as bonded as others, and this can cause some resistance and ambivalence in caregiving for aging parents. As discussed in our text, when there is a shift in the roles for caretaking, the ambivalence from the adult child or children can cause depression in both the adult child and the elderly parent. Caregiving for elderly parents can cause hardships to their adult children in many areas, especially financial burdens. Many children who are suffering life's burdens themselves have to take on the role of caregiving to their parents can find it difficult to say no, especially if they are a natural caregiver. If an older adult is suffering from chronic illnesses that require intensive care in the home of an adult child may not be the best place for the senior. Other diagnoses that can be difficult for family members to care for are those that include cognitive impairment, such as Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia. It can be emotionally destructive to the loved ones of a senior with dementia when the parent cannot remember who their child is. It is also difficult on the caregiver when their aging parent leaves the home and does not know where they are and get lost. These times are very heartbreaking for a family, and it's difficult to know what to do in these situations. Sometimes the adult child needs assistance from a professional to say it's time for their elderly parent to turn to more long-term care facilities. There are many options available to most seniors, such as independent living senior apartments, nursing homes, assisted living centers, retirement communities, and more. Professionals are aware of the symptoms to look for in older adults and are educated on how to properly assist in the event of a medical need. If professionals are able to make the decision, this takes a lot of stress and guilt off the family member's shoulders by not having to make the decision themselves.
According to the Family Caregiver Alliance, families provide 80% of long-term care in this country. That was from February 2015. Some questions that the family or the individuals need to ask themselves whenever they are deciding whether they should be able to keep the family member at home or whether the family member needs to be in some kind of an institution. Has there been any recent accidents or close calls with the family member? Are they having a slow recovery? Have they been sick a lot and they're not being able to get over illnesses? Do they have a chronic health condition that is worsening, such as COPD, dementia, congestive heart failure? Do they have increasing difficulty managing their activities of daily living? Maybe they're not being able to dress themselves anymore, or do their own shopping, doing their own laundry, managing their medications, things such as that. They're needing more help in those areas. Excuse me, they're not being able to take care of that themselves. Do they have a noticeable weight loss or weight gain? Do they seem to be more fragile? Do they have strange body odors? Noticeable poor hygiene? The change in their appearance, are they not combing their hair, not changing their clothes? The change in their friendships, normally they were going out with certain friends and going to church and such, and now they're not doing those things. Have they cut back on just any activities and interests that they had? Maybe they had hobbies, they were playing bingo and things such as that, and now they're not doing that anymore. They spend days without leaving their home. They kind of isolate. Do they just have stacks of mail piled up all in their house that they haven't gone through? Unpaid bills, unopened mail that's just laying there. Are you finding thank you notes from charities where they're spending all their money, sending to charities on TV and such? Do they have lots of magazines piled up that they're receiving and they're not even reading? Are you seeing dents and nicks in their car? Are they not putting on their seat belt when they're driving? Do they, when you go in their house, do you find expired canned goods, or is there milk expired in the refrigerator? Or are you finding multiple items of the same food in their house? They have like 10 bottles of ketchup. That's a early sign of dementia. Because like when they go to the store, they forget that they already have it and they buy it again. Do they have a freezer full of TV dinners? That's where they're not wanting to cook anymore. They're just kind of buying easy things. You find broken appliances in the home. Has there been any sign of a fire in the house, especially in the kitchen where they've been cooking? A sign of takeout dinners a lot where they haven't been cooking, they've just been buying takeout food. And then just, is there a lot of clutter in the house? A sign of lax in housekeeping? Is their bathroom dirty? Are their plants dying where they haven't been watering them? Do they have animals that look like they haven't been being tended to? Those are all just kind of questions that the family could use to assess the situation of their loved one and helping to make a decision on how the person is doing. Because, you know, they don't really know what to do. And it's hard to make that decision on putting somebody away, taking somebody out of their home. So like I said, that's just things that they can do. But, you know, if your loved one has a full life, a close neighborhood and community connection, and seems to be thriving, it's worth exploring as many in-home care options as possible before raising stress levels and pressing a move from a beloved home. If, on the other hand, your loved one is showing signs that living alone is a strain, it may be time for a talk. Broach the subject of where to live in a neutral way, and you may find that your loved one harbors the same fears for current and future safety and security that you do. Find out what your loved one fears most about moving and staying before launching into your own worries and what you think ought to be done. This can be a very stressful decision. The vast majority of older adults want to age in place so they can continue to live in their own homes or communities. As the older population grows, the degree to which they participate in community life will be determined in part by how communities are designed. There is a wonderful assisted facility available, like Tiger Place in Columbia, Missouri, that offers independent, assisted, and senior independent living communities, featuring a variety of homes, from studios to roomy 2-bedroom apartments. Management staff generally keeps a close watch on all of its residents.
As we can hear here, there are many things to consider when it comes to caregiving for an aging parent. And it certainly takes some assessment to determine how an aging parent is taking care of themselves in order to determine what the next step should look like.
I would just like to end with a personal testimony that I have from a friend of mine. He wrote this, and I would just like to share it with you. It says, while I am quick to profess that I am only one person in a vast sea of persons and families faced with the diminishing lives of loved ones, I am one person that has walked this path 4 times. An expert I am not, but a person with experience I am. In 4 separate decision-making processes, my family was confronted with realities of diminishing health. We were dependent on the good care of medical and social service professionals in providing care and direction for our family members. In all 4 situations, the professionals proposed that the time had come for us to arrange for professional, semi-skilled, and skilled care facilities for the welfare of our sick member and for the welfare of the rest of the family. It was at the point we elected to exercise our family decision-making efforts and to decide for our family members and for us a different path of care. We elected in all 4 situations to make what the professionals called the hard way. We elected to allow our family members to live in place surrounded by family members, offering love and care for as long as possible. My first experience came when we had to battle cancer attacking my wife's body. Her health continued to deteriorate. When the hospital had done all they could to improve health and could offer to provide comfort and pain control. We elected to do that in our home. We adjusted living conditions and appropriate furniture and home health equipment allowed my wife to enjoy our daughters ages 4 and 6. They in turn found it helpful to have mom close at hand. Amazingly, even young children learned to be able to be caregivers. It kept our family intact. It also helped all of us to face the realities of diminishing life and preparation for death and grief. It was a much more balanced approach for all of us to share the experience together. Our daughters were prepared as best as young children could be to recognize the realities that living is one verse of the song and dying is simply another verse. As the health of my parents as well as my father-in-law diminished, we determined we could maintain a higher quality of life by allowing parents to function in our homes, surrounded by what was familiar and in touch with people that could love them unconditionally. While it strained some aspects of life because of the schedules of caregiving, it was easier because the senior members of our family were present and not in some facility as suggested by the healthcare professionals, where we could have had to go out as outsiders to visit regularly. To be certain, families that accept the responsibility and privilege of making care decisions and include the hopes and wishes of the senior adult must accept the additional responsibilities and commitment of care that comes with those decisions, but the richness of knowing they did. Choose and choice to be the primary caregivers for as long as possible and exceedingly rewarding for both the senior family members and all of the rest of the family too. Thank you.
Thank you.